Hello and welcome to another episode of the Uncommon Energy Podcast. On this week's episode, we're going to be talking about a handful of new cards that have recently been revealed. We're going to talk about a surprising omission from the English version of Prismatic Evolutions coming out very soon. We will, of course, have Guess That Flavor Text, everyone's favorite segment of the podcast. We're going to bring back good old City League Watch this week, take a look at the results of the tournaments happening over in Japan and see what's doing well over there as far as the competitive side goes. And then we're going to talk about a potential huge change coming to match slip reporting that was talked about on X this past week. My name is Chip Rich, and I'm joined here as always by my friend and co-host Azul GG. What's up, Azul? How we doing, buddy?
Pretty good, Chip. Had a I don't know, pretty standard week. Nothing super crazy. Just doing some streaming, chilling, and yeah, getting ready to get back into the tournaments. I guess not this coming up weekend, but next weekend will be Birmingham. Weekend after that will be San Antonio, which I'm no longer going to be going to. I was like about to. I didn't talk about this last week, did I? I don't think
No.
so. Yeah, I was about to book my flight, and I was like, do I really want to travel the major tournament just knowing I'm gonna play Reggie Drago? And I was like, "Not really." It would either be like that. Honestly, in my head, I'm like, the only decks I think that are like worth playing would be Reggie Drago or Lugia. But Lugia is kind of a miserable experience to actually like play in a tournament. Or like Raging Bolt, like just playing a deck that has a favorable Drago matchup because there's no reason to play anything that doesn't at least have a 50-50 maybe a slightly unfavored Drago matchup if you really body everything else. Something like a guard four would kind of fit that category, but then you're just gonna hit a Reggie Drago and top cut and lose. So yeah, so I was like, yeah, I don't really feel like going to this one. But I'm excited to see, especially after Champions League. It seems like things change up a little, quite a bit with Badoo. It really is just Badoo, but I'm excited for the upcoming format next week. We got Prismatic Evolution coming out. We'll be talking about a little bit about that. What about you, Chip? How was your week?
Week was pretty good. Yeah, you should have just asked Jake Gearhart what his cryptic card was that he tweeted about today. Did you see that?
No.
Do you remember when Jake did this back whenever Lugia was broken? Everyone was like, Lugia is like this unbeatable deck. And Jake tweeted out some like cryptic number letter combination. And it turned out to be some weird deciphering code of like the Articuno that he played in the Palkia deck that got him top eight. So, I mean, he must have whatever the thing is, right? You should have just hit him up. Ask him what is LV8TFA5S? And maybe you could have played that for San Antonio.
Wait, well, is that an anti-Drago card or an anti-Badoo card?
Oh, I guess that's true. I guess that's true.
Yeah.
He could be thinking a little bit ahead. That is fair.
Yeah, I would assume, well, I mean, it would make sense for it to be an anti-Drago card or anti-Drago deck or something. The thing is, you can't just be anti-Drago because the meta is so wide right now, and
It is pretty wide.
it's one of those things where it feels like the meta, like, it's weird because sometimes we do see the meta narrow down, but it's like, I don't know, people are just, like, really content with playing decks, and this is gonna sound, like, mean. People are really content with playing decks.
Elitist.
People are content with playing decks that just have a bad Drago matchup, which is like doesn't really make a ton of sense. But yeah, I don't know. But I mean, if that's the way it's going to be. That's the way it's going to be. It just allows Drago to kind of thrive that much more. It feels like though. But I think we definitely have seen metas in the past where it's like the Raging Bolts really come out, and it like Raging Bolt comes up to like 15% of the meta, which we kind of saw at the beginning of the meta or format or a couple formats in a row where Raging Bolt was super popular, and it did feel like that kind of gave an opening for other decks to kind of get up to the top because Drago was being checked a little bit more. But um, yeah, right now it's like it's Drago's world, and no one wants to be the person to play the Raging Bolt now. It feels like, as we saw Raging Bolt go down to like 6% or something at
I think Raging
Toronto.
Bolt's gonna pick up in San Antonio pretty
It
heavy.
might.
We'll see what happens in Birmingham first, of
Yeah,
course. Um, yeah, but I'm not gonna be surprised if Birmingham and San Antonio,
Raging Bolt.
Gardevoir and Bolt are both like pretty popular, to be honest.
Yeah, and that, I mean, it would make sense. Like Gardevoir is one of those decks as well, like especially that like so many good players choose to play, right?
Yeah.
Like it's going to be really successful, but it feels like its success just kind of goes as far until they hit that last
Yeah.
really good Drago player, and then
Good
they
good
gotta.
Gardevoir players will beat mediocre Drago players.
They will eventually find a good Drago
Yeah.
player, and then it gets tough, then it gets tough.
Yeah.
And you can maybe overcome one, but overcoming, like, multiple of them where it's, like, almost impossible. But, I mean, yeah, that's where the format's currently at, but we're a week away from Badoo, even if there will be some major tournaments after that, or just the one, it'll just be San Antonio, right?
Yeah, just San Antonio. Yeah, it's again a kind of a bummer. I mean, Birmingham takes place the weekend that Badoo
I
comes
guess, yeah.
out, right? So it's
Yeah.
two tournaments kind of happening as Prismatic Evolutions is out but not legal for play just yet, which is always kind of a bummer. Kind of hate those tournaments that are right after a release, even though it doesn't seem like Prismatic Evolution is like going to change that much, and it doesn't really seem like Badoo is quite the powerhouse everyone
Uh,
thought it was going to
I don't know,
be. If only someone could have called that. I
I don't
think
know,
Badoo's fine. It's fine.
I think it is I don't know, when you look at the results from Champions League, it does feel like Badoo had a very big impact
Yeah.
on the format and the meta, and the
It's a
way decks are
knee-jerk
built,
reaction to the new card coming out, but as the
maybe.
format plays out, less and less decks are gonna play Badoo,
I
less and
don't
less
think that's
be
true.
countered or worried about or okay, maybe less it won't be less decks play Badoo, there it might be like the same decks are playing Badoo, really Dragapult being the biggest one, right?
Yeah,
But,
and
uh,
Garbodor.
people are more okay the meta just widens naturally, and then people are more okay not having their Badoo text necessarily in their deck or whatever, or building their deck with
Yeah,
Badoo
yeah.
super in mind
Well, yeah, I
because
think some people will just be like, uh if they get the Badoo play off and they have a clean setup behind it, I just lose. But if they don't, the matchup is still pretty much like 50-50. I'm okay with like taking that. So yeah, there's gonna be some people who probably the meta will probably come back around a little bit. But I almost kind of compared it. Someone asked me in my or got brought up in my stream today, and someone compared Badoo to like Decidueye, where it's like, which is what you kind of just said right there for a second. You did backpedal a little bit, which I think is correct to have done because it's not gonna be like everything plays Badoo, then no one plays Badoo, then
it's
everything
not like
plays
that,
Badoo.
yeah.
Yeah, Badoo's always going to be there, and it's more like a Garbodor situation where it's like you Garbodor's the best thing in the format, so you have to play and build your decks around not putting too many
I
items
don't think
or in the discard pile for Trash Lance. No, Badoo's not going to have the same effect, but it's the same thing on a lower scale. Like if Garbodor was a 10 out of 10,
much lower.
Badoo's like a 3 or 4 out of 10,
Okay.
right? Because Garbodor probably is the 10 out of 10. Is anything else had the same impact that Trash Lance plus Ability Lock Arbiter had when they released at the same time?
They
I don't
didn't
think
release at the
anything
same time, but
no,
yeah,
no, but
and
when
the
the Trash Lunch finally came out
I see
to
what
go
you're saying.
alongside it, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really think so, and if for anyone who's uninformed, we could actually just kinda go down this story real quick about what we're talking about. Back in 2017, the format was super, super fast. Everyone's decks were incredibly turbo built, heavy on like trainers mails and flying through their deck.
Shaman.
Decidueye Vileplume was like the best deck in the format at the time. People just flew through their deck, locked both players out of items, and then that was it for the rest of the game. But then one set after Decidueye had come out, this Garbodor came out with the Trashalanche attack, which did 20 damage for each item card in your opponent's discard pile. And this card had an immediate massive impact on the game. One of the most famous tournaments of all time was the Seattle Regional Championships that happened in 2017, right after this card came out. Where if you look at day two, which back then was just top 32, it was like 26 or something Garbodor decks.
Yeah. Well, go ahead and before,
24, 28 Garbodor, or no, 24, yeah, 24 Garbodor decks.
yeah, share your screen with me real fast on the
Oh, yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah. I think Badoo has a similar impact because like after a couple tournaments, it wasn't the same percentage of uh Garbodor decks to non-Garbodor decks. Like decks adapted and adjusted, kind of like what we saw in this first Champions League with like the Lances in the Dragapult decks. And then you see some decks that just kind of compete against the Badoo deck's a little bit better, like the Archaludons being like better plays, it seems like. So I think Badoo is gonna have like it's gonna have the Garbodor effect, but on like a lesser scale, like I said, a 3 or 4 out of 10 compared to the 10 out of 10 that was Garbodor. Because I don't know if we've seen anything like that where Garbodor it did bring some new archetypes to the table, but it really drastically changed how people approached deck building. Um, which is, like, the biggest thing I feel like like, a lot of decks changed up how they were built because you saw because like, even when you look at stuff like, Broken Lugia, no one
Yeah.
changed how they built their deck, they were just struggling to keep up.
Yeah, this was definitely I think it's probably the most Yeah, it fits that description better than any card in the history of the game for sure. So this was the first tournament where this card came out, and then people did adapt, right? If you look at the next tournament, the Madison Regional Championships, which took place just a week later, or a week and a half later, or 2 weeks later, I guess,
Yeah.
something like that. Which you yourself got top 8 at this tournament with the perfect example of adapting to the format. There's only one. We went from this top cut in Seattle where it was almost all Garbodor decks to
So with
Madison.
the lap
Yeah, the Lapras. Shout outs to the Lapras, Patch City over there. And then there's just one Garbodor deck in this top cut. All these other decks were built with Garbodor in mind,
yeah,
building slower, strategies, high HP, psychic resistance with the Metagross GX from Shemansky. You yourself playing the Volcanion deck that was a lot like, previous to this, people were playing Shaman and Skyfield and Hoopa
Max
and
Elixir.
the Max Elixirs and Trainer's Mails, all these dozens of items cards, and now you've thinned it down. 3 versus Seeker, 3 Ultra Ball, things people would have never thought of doing, right?
Yeah.
In reaction to that card coming out in the format.
Yeah, yeah. So I think that's what we're seeing around Badoo a little bit, and I think it's like so. Yeah, I think the meta and format will like change up a decent amount, which is cool. Not going to be like any drastically new archetypes, but it will just like shake things up enough where I think it keeps the game fresh enough until we hit rotation, which is still a little ways away for us. Um, but yeah, I'm excited still. The game. I mean, the game currently, I'm still having fun with the game right now. And we're gonna get a little bit of a shake up with the Badoo of course, and then we'll have a little bit of a long wait for rotation, but it'll be coming up soon. Hopefully sooner than later. Hopefully Badoo shakes stuff up enough where it feels like it's sooner than later. We stay entertained with the Badoo format.
What did you lose to in this top cut? Do you remember?
Pram with the Vespa Queen.
I
Yeah.
guess if you're gonna lose to someone, might as well be the guy who ends up eventually winning. So
Yeah. It is a tough one. It's the one prize.
with the Vaporeon in there as well. Did Jimmy have the same 60 here too? Similar?
No Vaporeon,
No
yeah.
Vaporeon. The difference maker right there.
Yeah, Vespa Queen was a pretty good deck as well. Wait, I didn't even remember that. They didn't even have battle compressor. You're literally playing Vespa Queen without battle compressor. You're just
Yeah, it
like,
was unknown Klefki, bro.
yeah, yeesh,
Yeah. And
rough.
it was like Vespiquen was thought of as not good this season, really, like at the start of the season because Battle Compressor had rotated,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And
Um,
that's the thing. You never truly know until you actually start playing games with the deck. Like that's a pretty big card to lose as a Vespa Queen deck. Anyone who doesn't know, battle compressor just discarded 3 cards from your deck, and Vespa Queen does was it 10 plus 10 more damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile.
yeah, 20
So
plus 10.
Um, yeah, that's a pretty good way to fuel your discard pile, and people have to get weird with the unknowns and the was it Klefki? And
Yeah.
Klefki like attached itself to a Pokemon, and then it got discarded at the end of the turn. But you could attach it to an unknown discarded itself to draw yourself a card, so you can kind of cycle 2 Pokemon to your discard pile with that. So had to get a little creative, but it survived. It did survive.
Life finds a way, and it was
Why is
Vespiquen for
there
this
why is
one.
there 2 different Eevees? What is the
We'll have to ask Primawat about that one.
Wait, did Jimmy also play dude 2 different EVs? Was that the thing, or is it just like,
No, Jimmy
"Oh,
only played
no,
1/1
had the
EV.
1/1." Okay, okay. And Prim
Yeah,
had the
Primawat with
2.
the 1/1 split. We'll have to figure out what the answer is.
My assumption would be that he only had 1 of each. That'd be my
Right.
guess.
This one is
'Cause you
probably
can't
the
use
better one
the
to play.
you got the maybe he just
Well,
didn't have 2
no, maybe
lunge.
he wanted the opportunity to quick draw, you know? You never know.
Probably didn't have 2 lunge ones. I assume the lunge has gotta be the way to go. That 30 damage.
Probably the more relevant one, yeah.
Was there anything to knock out that 30 HP back then?
Joltik had rotated. I don't think there was really much anyone was playing, but you just wanted damage in play
Yeah,
sometimes,
could
right?
set
Yeah.
up the 2 hit.
Using a double colorless on lunge feels pretty miserable, but
Definitely.
I wonder if you ever had early game EV. Do you just go for the guaranteed 10 or do you go
Oh,
for the
sure.
lunge?
I mean, I guess it depends on, like, how much damage you think you can hit on your next
All
turn.
right, all right, all right. We're
Yeah.
getting a little too deep in the weeds here talking about optimal EV attacks from the 2017 format.
Yeah,
Let's
there's a
rope it back in a little bit.
couple new cards to take a look at, and these are all, I believe, Battle Partners Journey Together cards. None of these are coming out in the set coming out next week. Oh, yeah, we know that for sure at this point, yeah.
It says from
So,
SV9, so whatever
yeah.
that is.
Uh, well, I wanna say that's Journey Together, first owner
I
set.
can't keep track of the Japanese set names.
It is SV9, yes. Journey well, no, the Japanese one is Battle Partners. Journey
Oh,
Together
okay.
is our set. Yeah.
Journey Together is what our set is called.
Yeah. It's the Pokemon and the owners, journeying together.
It's not a very good set name.
Alright. But, yeah, we'll be getting that end of March, so we're 2 months away from that. Actually, no, we're actually, like, 3 months away, pretty much.
Yep. And just a couple new cards here to talk about. We do have the Banette here. Cursing Words. Your opponent chooses 3 cards from their hand and shuffles them into their deck. And people were pretty quick to realize what the potential combo with this card would be, which is 06 Machinations. Your opponent discards cards from their hand until they have 3 cards in their hand. So in theory, you play 06. You use Banette, your opponent has a 0 card hand.
Yeah. Also good combo with, like, Iono or Unfair Stamp are also options. And then there is the Benetti X, so you do have, like, an attacker theoretically
From the
to
same evolution line.
yeah, from the same evolution line, which I think is usually, like, one of the things that because we saw what is there's another card that basically does this, Salazzle. We have Salazzle in the format. Oh, Salazzle discards
It's
is
much
it
worse. It only works like
Salazzle
the
1+2? I wanna say
I
Salazzle
think
is
it's
one
like
plus
1
two.
and then 2 more if you
Evolve.
played or if it evolves, that's right. I thought it
Yeah.
had to do if you played the 06.
Oh, and it does discard.
And it also is 2 colorless as well.
Yeah. What with the Banette's 1 psychic, right?
Yeah, 1 psychic.
Yeah, but yeah, having, like, an act because I don't think there's a I mean, Salazzle doesn't evolve into anything. There's not like a good attacking Salazzle, but then, like, yeah, taking away your opponent's hand and then item locking them on the next turn with a Banette EX doesn't sound bad, right? So I don't know. Maybe there's something there. Yeah, hand locking obviously is not good enough because Salazzle hasn't been played in anything at all since it's come out. But
Yeah.
you do have some like backup to maybe work with.
Stuff like this is always scary for it to, like, exist in the game, right?
Yeah, the potential is there.
The potential is there. Like, hand lock is, like, the most miserable form of control to exist in the format, both to play against and then also, like, just for it to be something you have to consider when going into a tournament. Like,
Yeah,
whenever Pidgey control was floating around in the standard format, oh my gosh, it's like absolutely miserable to think about having to play against that because it's just 0 interaction, right?
and there
Um,
was no
and then the Trevenant Dusknor deck that wasn't expanded as well was like super toxic.
yeah, there was no like B barrel or anything at the time as well when Pidgey control was a thing, right?
Yeah,
It was just the Pidgeotto itself. Like, other decks could have played Pidgeotto theoretically to beat the Handlock.
yeah, had a Rangaroo rotated out. I think it had, right? Sun and Moon
If it
base set a
wasn't, there
Rangaroo.
would there's no way it'd be good. The draw
Yeah,
3?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If that existed, then the Pidgey control wouldn't be able to it could maybe exist for one tournament if no one played it, and then everyone would just add it in. But the next card actually I think is pretty good here, the Dunsparce EX.
Yeah, we do have the Dunsparce EX with 2 different attacks, 270 HP, stage 1 colorless Pokemon, 3 retreat, weak to fighting. First attack here, 60 times for 1 colorless. This attack does 60 damage for each of your opponent's Pokemon EX in play. And then Breaking Drill for 3 colorless, 150 damage. This attack's damage isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon.
Yeah. So this card is, like, fine, but the reason I think it's good is because, well, the Dunsparce, the other Dunsparce that is a draw engine, does definitely get more consideration moving forward, but B-Barrel rotates, Curlia rotates. We don't have as many options. There's still the Revavroom. I don't think there's anything else. Liepard rotates.
Yeah.
So as far as draw engines go,
Earlier rotates.
yeah, there's not gonna be, like, a ton of options, so the Dunsparce definitely gets more consideration. Right now, it's pretty terrible. Pretty much all the other things I just listed are better than the Dunsparce. But if the Dunsparce becomes a draw engine in a deck in the future, there's no reason to not include, like, one the Dunsparce EX as a potential attacking option because it only attacks for 1 colorless energy, right? So, a pretty powerful card to exist for any potential draw engine.
Yeah, and these types of cards have been good in the past. There's been several like other one prize Pokemon that have had similar type attacks. There was the Salamence EX that existed that was pretty good when Double Dragon Energy was around that did a bunch of damage for, yeah, each Pokemon EX in play back
Yeah.
then.
Generally, these
Well,
attacks aren't great, but when you can, like, tech it in as, like, a one of,
yeah,
that
yeah,
is
yeah.
so low maintenance, right? Just that one colorless energy to pull off the attack.
Yeah, the fact that it is a evolution, it does limit it pretty much to being a potential tech in a deck that's already playing to Dunsparce. But yeah, this deck is not. This is like not a card that's going to be played on its own. It will be played
Yeah.
as a tech in a Dunsparce engine deck already.
Yeah, you're not building it a Dunsparce EX deck, but
Yeah. I guess while we're here, we'll just read this guy real fast. Good old Metagross from SV9. 170 HP, stage 2 psychic type Pokemon, 3 retreat. Weak to dark, resistant to fighting, 2 attacks. We're going to read the second one here for 2 psychic energy, joint beam, 130 plus. If you have Beldum and Matang on your bench, this attack does 150 more damage.
yeah. So
So that
Hendrick,
is 280.
which is becoming less and less relevant. That number's, like, not a thing anymore because
Yep.
all the I mean, I guess the Dunsparce EX got 270 HP. Although
Cerulege,
actually, hold up, but also a lot of the new EX Pokemon do have 280. That'll be coming out in this set. All the stage ones, the Zoroark, the Belly Bolt, they all have 280. So actually, I take that back. We are losing all the V stars, but we're actually gaining a bunch of powerful EX Pokemon that have the 280. And the 280 was a number that was really tied to V stars, the Tinas, the Dragos, the Lugias, stuff like
Arceus.
that. But it seems like that number is actually sticking around with these. We'll see how much of the other owner EX Pokemon. Are we going to be done with EXs after the owners Pokemon for
No,
the
it'll
time?
be probably through the rest of this generation until this generation's done. But
How
owner's
long is
Pokemon
that?
might stick around until the end of this generation. I mean, we don't
Yeah,
know for sure, but if
2
the
years, 3
cycle
years,
is the same in theory, right? It would be like the end of this year, start of next year would be new generation in theory. All speculation.
end of this year, start of next year.
Yeah, right?
Only like 4 more major sets then.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
SV9, there's normally 12 major sets.
SC10, SC11, SC12. Okay, yeah. So yeah, that'll be the end of EXs then, right?
Yeah.
We had
Well,
EXs for
unless they
12
continue
sets.
it through, unless they continue it through.
They could, I
Um,
guess. True.
because that's what they did in 20 like in the black and white to XY, right? It was just uppercase EX. They
Yeah.
didn't change the main like core mechanic of the game. It feels unlikely that they wouldn't bring some new core mechanic to the game because it's like a big exciting thing, sells cards, right? People get excited about it. And it is, I think from a player standpoint, people like just prefer when things are new and unique, right?
Yeah.
But the EX mechanic does feel pretty balanced and good. Like I don't think people would have complained if regular non-tag team GXs had stayed around, and that's effectively what EXs are, right?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of wish. I mean, and maybe that'll be the next iteration of whatever. But I wish we had GX attacks and then we had V Star powers. I feel like that should just kind of be a constant in the game. It don't like those feel pretty good overall. And definitely V Star powers were better than GX attacks because GX attacks were limited to attacks. But I think what they did with V Star powers was really, really cool. Like
Star
Arceus,
Powers was cool, yeah.
yeah, like Arceus's ability and stuff like that. So it kind of sucks that they got rid of that going into EXs. It feels like that could have been something they tried to keep around. Maybe that's what we'll see another iteration of that, but maybe just evolving EXs to have that. Maybe we've had
Well,
EXs so many times. Should EXs just be in the game and then sometimes there's like another layer on top of them, like EX something, or just like somehow change them up in a different way.
yeah, like a
Um,
trainer's EX
yeah,
or
because it feels like EXs should just always be in the game, to be honest, at this point. We've had moments where they haven't existed, but even when they don't exist, we still have V Pokemon or GXs or I guess that's ways to do well, not even really. I guess the difference is just the evolutions, right?
yeah.
But even GXs evolved from it really is just V Pokemon that were that different, where the basic
Well,
was V
and
into V
basic
star.
EX and like uppercase EXs. There's a difference between uppercase EX and lowercase EX, right? So we have lowercase EX Pokemon right now, which can be basic stage 1 or stage 2 Pokemon.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that did exist before back in the Gen 3 era, the EX era of the game is what it was called. Um
2006, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
2005, 4, 5, 6, and 7. All these things were legal. In 2007, Diamond and Pearl came out, and that's when we had Level X's. Then Black and White came out, and that's when we had capital EXs, which were all basics, only basic Pokemon, no evolving. Then that continued through X and Y. Then in Sun and Moon, we got GXs, which were similar to what we have now, which were Pokemon that could be basics, stage
Yeah.
ones or stage twos. Um, and then we got V's and Maxes, which were two prize basic Pokemon that could evolve into three prize Pokemon,
Yeah.
and then V stars that could evolve into two prize Pokemon from
Okay,
two prize
interesting.
Pokemon, so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
okay. So that's really the big difference, I feel like, for sure. I don't think we're ever going back to just basic EXs for sure. I don't think they're ever gonna do that again.
No,
That's pretty
I
lame.
hope not, man.
Yeah. The Landorus's and the Keldeos and stuff like that. Mewtwo.
Yeah, and
That's Mewtwo's
evolving,
dark cry.
I hope that, like, the VMAX era as well taught them that evolving into from a multi-prize Pokemon into a bigger multi-prize Pokemon was just not a good competitive path, I don't
Yeah,
think,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I don't I guess it wouldn't be a bad thing if we never kind of see V Pokemon ever again, or the way they kind of worked before.
Yeah.
They could still, like, bring back tag teams in some form, potentially.
Tag teams? You want tag
Well,
teams?
that could be, like, the only basic kinda stuff. I mean, I liked tag teams more than VMAXs for sure. I think tag teams were fine, but they could do them better. I think there's a better like, doing a 3 prize Pokemon, I don't think it's a bad thing.
No, I
Um,
don't think doing a three prize Pokemon is necessarily a bad thing just in itself. It's just like what else is kind of enabled around them
yeah, of
almost. I don't
course.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think tag teams felt fine pre Cosmic Eclipse.
What do we get at Cosmic
Pikarom and Reshi, Zard and stuff like that.
what do we get at Cosmic Eclipse? That's when we got those in? We got those in Cosmic
ADP.
Oh, okay, ADP, yeah, yeah, yeah. That was
Because
bad.
then there
Well,
was
no,
no one prize decks couldn't compete.
that's true.
One
Well,
prize
no, I
decks
mean,
could
no,
kind of
I was
compete.
playing Malamar when it was when Zacian came out. Zacian was the problem. Zacian was the problem.
Well, ADP Zacian definitely helped ADP a lot. I think ADP, uh, given more time in that format, because it was kind of a quick format.
Might
It
have
was like,
evolved, yeah.
yeah, it came out in like November, and then the new set came out in like January or something like that. Like it was like it was one of those like 6 week formats. I want to say before Zacian came out,
Yeah.
or
That's true.
maybe it was a 3 month. I don't remember exactly.
I don't remember
It
either.
was like in the December. It was yeah, because OCIC was in like February, right? Right before
Yeah, that makes sense.
COVID and stuff. So, and that was when Zacian had just come out.
Yeah, so it was like 3 months still then, I think. 3 or
Yeah.
4. Yeah. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I feel like they should probably just keep EXs and then maybe do like some, I don't know, like super EX or something where it is like a tag team or something, or but it feels like EXs maybe should just stay in the game.
And Owners
Um,
EX, which is
yeah,
what they're doing.
yeah.
Yeah, just give us
True.
a different
Well,
flavor
owners,
of EX.
yeah. I mean, owners EX specifically, it feels like nothing really changes. It's just it's kind of like Rapid Strike, Single Strike, where it's just like they just put like a badge on it, but it doesn't really mean anything. It's
Well,
just
I
like makes
mean,
them create synergies between the cards. It's like you could like Chien-Pao and Baxcalibur may as well be owners cards, but they're not, right? Like Chien-Pao and Baxcalibur, they might as well be owners cards, but they just don't
sure.
have the owners stamp on them or whatever. Um, but yeah, Prismatic Evolution's coming out next week. It'll be available on PTCG Live on Thursday. The official release is on Friday, and it looks like potentially we're going to be missing a couple cards that seemed like they were probably some of the better cards in the set besides Badoo, although obviously Badoo is king. We already know that.
Yeah, so there's these cards, Blaziken and Lilligant, both initially came out, I believe, in some sort of theme deck over in Japan, is what we determined. So I think everyone just
Starter
kind of
deck, yeah.
assumed, oh, hey, these cards like might go into our Prismatic Evolution, but it doesn't seem like they are. So it's like going to be a kind of a gap between these like semi-playable cards being legal in Japan to being legal in the rest of the world, right? Where it's
Yeah.
like they're going to have like because we still don't know necessarily where these cards are coming out.
Yeah. And they're not very good, but they're some of like the better cards from the set for sure. Like the Lilligant increases your grass and fire Pokemon's damage by 20. You could do a cool Badoo deck with that, right?
My
And
gosh,
then
you are obsessed with Badoo, dude.
the Blaziken is probably the most overhyped card from the set, I would say for sure. Because the amount of hype this card was getting for how bad it is unreasonable. But it's like, it's like one of those cards where it's like, oh, you could actually make some bad meme decks with this card, right? 320 HP, stage 2. The ability once on your turn, you may attach a basic energy card from your discard pile to one of your Pokemon. So energy acceleration for basically any Pokemon, a little bit slow. Obviously was not going to be great, but you could at least do something with it, right? and there's not that much you can do with the cards from this set. There really isn't. Besides, like I said, besides do and there's some cool trainer cards.
All the
But yeah,
EVs are terrible, all of them. Like,
yeah. And even like, and I always had some hope for some EV cards, but I've lost hope because whenever I go look at City League results, which we'll take a look at those later in the episode a little bit, I've seen 0 EV decks. And it's like, I don't put that much value on City League results over in Japan, but it's because I put so little value on it that I would expect an EV deck to pop up now and then. I haven't seen any. There might be some in there, but I have yet to see a EV deck in any of the City League results. So even I have lost hope for that. One card that I just learned about though recently that I'm excited for is there's that A spec coming out that searches your deck for 5 tool cards.
oh, yeah.
Um, will we finally see EXP share has always been a card where it's like we saw EXP share most recently be successful in Maridon like 3, 4 formats ago now. Um, And there is a lot of decks I feel like that have existed that I've worked on and built where I'll put like 3 or 4 EXP share in the deck, but obviously it's not gonna flow that well because it's hard to find your tool cards. Did we finally see like a quad EXP share deck? Because you can find all your EXP shares in one go and get them all on your board. So I don't know. Maybe there's some hope for an EXP share deck because I feel like I've done like throughout my years playing the Pokemon TCG, I put EXP share in a lot of decks with the idea of like there's no energy acceleration for these cards, but if I can set up the first attacker and get EXP shares on my backup attacker, we can actually chain attacks this way. Um, we could get 5 no, 4 Bravery Charm and an Ancient Capsule for all your Pokemon in Raging Bolt. Is
Yeah, there
that
you go.
ever the thing? That could be
That's
the
the
thing.
Raging Bolt A-Spec now, yeah.
Yeah,
That's the move. No, I think, I mean, if EXP Share was gonna find a time to shine, it surely would have been. I mean, it was probably just the Miraidon deck, right? And the reason
yeah,
was because you're playing Arven, right? Which is one of the best supporter cards in the format. So, like, if
find
there
it.
was gonna be some other deck in the format, it would have been found already that could use EXP Share because you're using Arven so aggressively. It'll be interesting actually to see post rotation uh what happens with the supporter counts in decks. Like, Arven seems not that good when you're not getting Forest Sealstone. I guess we still have TM Evolution, which is pretty good, but
Yeah.
like, I don't know, any of these fast decks that have used like Miraidon using Arven doesn't seem like a viable choice really anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's, like, less yeah, it's definitely less good. It would definitely be hard to, like, argue that that's the correct way to go, or, like, I mean, I don't know, Cloth Terrapagos loses some other stuff as well. No, maybe it's just, like, kind of the V package in Cloth Terrapagos. They kinda keep
Well,
everything
that
else,
deck
right?
plays a zillion tools
Oh,
already
they
anyway,
lose double turbo energy.
and they also. Oh yeah, that's the big thing, and they do also lose Oranguru V, which is a pretty big card
That
for
is a
that
big
deck
one.
too.
Yeah, yeah, so they probably lose a little bit too much. Double
Although,
turbo
another double
can be
energy
rough,
around the corner, who knows?
possibly.
It's been a
But
while
yeah,
since we've had a format without one.
that will be interesting for sure. But maybe maybe it's just kinda like the thing we just talked about where it was like, I mean, Battle Compressor's gone, Vespa Queen can't be good. People still play Vespa Queen. Forest Sealstone's gone.
Basic fighting energy cloth, baby, let's get it.
I mean, hey, if you even look at some of the results from Champions League, there is Dragapult decks. There's the top 4 Dragapult list has 4 Arven and no V Pokemon. So, it does have Crystal, which is a pretty important find, right?
Yep,
Sparkling Crystal is pretty important to find, but I'm just saying, like, maybe maybe Arven is, like, that good, and, I guess we'll have to see. People are still gonna be playing 4 Arven without 4 Sealstone or V Pokemon after rotation. Hopefully not. It'd be nice to see things switched up a little bit.
change it up a bit. Yeah, rotation is one of the more exciting times in the game for sure. Just a new, fresh look because while the new sets coming out is always exciting, rotation is kind of a breath of fresh air because you get to go back and revisit older archetypes or older cards that haven't been good but now have a potential to be good, right? Or have a potential to, make an impact.
Yeah, and that can happen with, like, set releases, set releases, set release, but rotation shakes up so much more. There's so much more potential for that to happen. So, yeah, definitely be exciting to see. Always excited for it.
All right. Well, I think it's time to move on to guess that flavor text. But before we do have to take a moment to thank our fantastic sponsor, Dragon Shield, for supporting us here on the Uncommon Energy podcast. Dragon Shield, of course, makes some of the best card gaming and tabletop gaming products on the market. We love them for their sleeves. I actually went to a league challenge this weekend and rocked the good old TCG Classic or TCG the Mint Classics, which have been my go-to. Shout outs to the classics. Join me in the wave. Order your classics today. Azul, what you got?
Um, Sorry, I just literally had a massive brain fart.
Wow. We are doing the ad read right now.
Yeah,
We are doing an ad read. We get paid to do this. We're professionals here.
no,
Shout
I
outs
mean,
to Dragon Shield.
yeah, shout out to Dragon Shield as always. I haven't been using any sleeves recently myself. Of course, I haven't been playing anything. And I mean, I was gonna pack up the yellows for San Antonio, but they're gonna have to sit and wait for Merida. Do plan to go to
Azul is
Merida
gonna have these
and be
yellows
Bedouin.
just sitting on his shelf for
There's not that many.
years
There's not that many
at the
left.
rate at which he's going to these
That
tournaments.
is not true. There's not that
Next
many
time you
left.
come here, I need you to bring some sleeves, by the way, because I'm running low.
Okay, I'll bring some yellows.
Yeah.
But yeah, shout out to Dragon Shield as always. Check them out. Link, will, of course, will be in the description, and our code UEPod will get you 5% off and directly support us over here on the podcast.
Yep. Code UEPOD. That's UEPOD. DragonShield.com. Get yourself 5% off. Shout out to Dragon Shield for supporting us as always.
And yeah, got guess that flavor text up next. This week it's my turn to pick a card, read the flavor text on the card, and then Chip has to try and guess which Pokemon that flavor text and card belong to. Chip will get 4 points if he gets it right without using a single lifeline. For each lifeline he uses, he gets one less point. The lifelines are what set the card is from, what stage the card is, and then read an attack name on the card. Chip, pretty close. I'm behind 29 to 32. How confident are you feeling this week?
I'm feeling all right. I feel like we'll get something going. Apparently, a lot of people instantly knew Grumpig based off the Black Pearls hints. Like
Apparently.
the comments, I feel like every other comment on last week's episode was like, I just instantly got it as soon as he said Black Pearls.
ap-
And I was like, I thought I was throwing, I mean, I did throw Zool for a curveball, but I thought
Yeah.
that would give everyone else at least a little bit. Like, are people really out here just being that big of Grumpig enjoyers? I guess. I don't know.
I guess is more people's favorite Pokemon than I would have ever guessed. People are big fans of the Grumpig. What are you ready for this week's flavor text, Chip? All right. Packs of them follow travelers through the desert until the travelers can no longer move.
Okay. Well, it sounds like some sort of like hunting Pokemon, like something that would be hunting something. Like, why would it be following the travelers until they can no longer move as well? So it's like they're stalking their prey almost, is kind of what I'm thinking. And in the desert as well. So some sort of like lion or wolf Pokemon. What lion Pokemon? Is Pyroar? Pyroar, I guess. Would be my initial thought. Let me hear you read the flavor text one more time.
Packs of them follow travelers through the desert until the travelers can no longer move.
Yeah, Pyroar, Mightyena maybe, or like, um, what's it called? Manectric. I don't really think of Manectric or Mightyena as desert Pokemon. I don't really think of Pyroar too much as a desert Pokemon either. Let me get a little bit of help here. Let's start with what set the card is from.
Is from Breakthrough.
Is there a Pyroar in Breakthrough? Hmm. I don't think there is. Breakthrough was the set that I started playing the game with, so I opened up a lot of Breakthrough packs back in 2015 or whenever that was. Um, or 2016 maybe? 2015, I think, yeah. Um, hmm. I don't think there is a Pyroar though in the set. Might need a little bit more here. Let's go with read an attack name. Maybe that'll help me a little bit.
Derail.
Derail. So the good old discard a special energy from your opponent's active Pokemon. All right, well let's just go ahead and get the full trifecta. What stage is the card?
Is a stage 1.
Stage 1, so Pyroar. I mean, is it just Pyroar? I don't think Pyroar has I can't picture the Pyroar that would be in Breakthrough. I know the Flash Fire one. There's a Phantom Forces one. Um Derail is like a dark Pokemon attack a lot of times. So maybe it could be Mightyena, but I don't think there's a Mightyena. Um, I'm gonna recognize this card as soon as it's done. As soon as I don't get it right. I just can't think of anything else besides Pyroar. I got locked in on that maybe a little bit too quickly. Could it be Pangoro? Like Pangoro is not stalking Pokemon's prey, but I feel like that would be a Pokemon that would have like a derail attack. Yeah, that's not really stalking prey. Um, I guess I just gotta lock in the Pyroar. I don't think that's right, but I can't think of anything else. Let's lock it in, I guess. Pyroar.
All right, I'm gonna give out one more. It is not Pyroar.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give out one more hint. Um, its basic Pokemon, a current version of its basic Pokemon, is a Badoo counter.
Oh, is it Cacturn?
It is Cacturn. Yeah,
Cacturn is stalking its prey?
yeah. And I mean, it sounds like they're, the
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't say it, but it did kind of go through my mind for a second, this Pokemon, especially when I said darkness Pokemon for the
yeah.
derail attack.
I had another really good one I was gonna use this week, but it only had one attack, and I feel like the attack gave it away too much. And then this one too, I was like, well, I definitely can't say Pin Missile.
You should have said Pin Missile.
So I was like, I gotta go with Derail. But even then, I knew that would probably lead you to think about Dark Pokemon, because even I know Derail is a Dark Pokemon attack. Um,
Yeah,
so
Pin Missile would have narrowed it down probably a bit more for me. I did kind of think of Cacturn when you said breakthrough, but I kind of immediately disregarded it because I was like, it's not stalking prey. But like, I guess I locked in on that maybe a little too much because it doesn't say it's stalking prey, right? It says it follows travelers through the desert, which is like effectively stalking prey.
yeah, it's just like waiting till they are too exhausted to fight back, I think, and then Cacturn gobbles them up. Like,
Who
I
knows,
guess.
bro? Cacturn's a spooky dude.
What else are you gonna do with them?
All right. Well, no points for me this week.
Cacturn,
Bit of a
honestly,
bummer.
looking at it a little bit, it just looks like an inflatable thing. Like, it doesn't look like a like, doesn't it just look like one of those inflatable.
It looks like one of those inflatable costumes that people wear at
Yeah,
Halloween,
exactly. It's exactly what it looks like.
but it's a thing. It's a cactus. It's a Pokemon.
True. Well, I was able to hold you off one more week, Chip, but I gotta try and actually make up some ground here. I can only, not score points myself for so long. I've gotta next week as I gotta make some moves here coming up. Um,
Best of luck to you.
Hey, let us know in the comment section how'd you do on Cacturn. I bet some people got it from Breakthrough plus Derail. I bet once some people heard that, they got there.
I bet some people just heard it and knew immediately because
Well,
that's what the
yeah,
comments always are.
dude, but those people are
Oh,
freaks,
how did you
bro.
guys
They
not
know.
know Cacturn?
Some people are freaks with the Pokemon knowledge, bro. It's insane. It's crazy.
All
And
right.
I
Well,
feel like dude, you have like it's so funny like listening to you go down to some of these thought processes too, because there's like two other layers of like information that you are able to piece together with like all the information of at least the flavor text plus the things that I just don't ever get to, because you'll say stuff like, well, this is not in this set, or I remember this from this set, or this is an attack that X type of Pokemon have. I'm just like, some people do. So there's other people out there who like have like another like 3 or 4 layers more than you do, who just
true.
like
Yeah.
more information to like piece together.
Someone commented about Grumpig last week. They were like, "Yeah, I knew it immediately. I guess I maybe just played too much Pokemon Emerald. Or I've played through Pokemon Emerald too many times." So I was like, "I have played through the Generation 3 games a ton of times, and I would have never known just based on the black pearls of Grumpig." Like,
Maybe you
I don't
battle. Maybe one of the trainers out there, you battle them a lot, and they have the Grumpig or something.
not
Or is
that
there
I
a gym
really I
leader?
mean, I'm sure someone has it. No, not a like there's not like a big fight where Grumpig is a big part
Okay.
of it that I remember at least. Who knows? I don't know.
All right. Well, yeah, City League's still been going on over in Japan. Champions League, of course, happened was it 2 weekends ago now or last it was 2 weeks, 2 or 3
2
weekends
3
now.
weekends ago now.
Yeah, because we took a week off. Um
Yeah, so we wanted to take a look at the city leagues and kind of see what their meta has done based on the results from the Champions League. And it's no surprise to see like Archaludon is kind of hanging out up here, right? It's won several of these. Just looking at the results here.
Yeah,
Um, Dragapult doing well, but a big
Gardevoir.
standout in the more recent ones, quite a bit of Gardevoir.
Yeah, definitely quite a bit of Gardevoir, and I don't know. It seems like, and I kind of mentioned this when we talked about the Champions League results. It's like they felt like Gardevoir was the second, maybe not most popular deck, but second like big deck that people were like aware of and worrying about alongside Dragapult. Um, yeah, we're seeing a lot of our Chaladon out there as well, which is cool to see because it is such a like you read our Chaladon, like, okay, this is pretty good, pretty efficient, right? And I feel like it's no surprise that our Chaladon, from what we can tell so far, is maybe starting to have its moments and maybe it'll stick around for a little while. I do feel like our Chaladon is going to be one of those decks that probably goes in and out of the meta. It probably won't be constantly good just based on how linear it is. And decks that it can't quite KO, but can one hit KO it. Stuff like biggest one being Raging Bolt
Yeah,
will always be tough for it. What is that card? Oh, it's the black belt.
yeah,
There we go. I mean, that's the way to KO Raging Bolt, I guess. I don't know how good it is, but that is technically a way to KO Raging
yeah. They've
Bolt.
got a Lumineon in here too. Okay, and yeah, if you can just get through one, you got jamming towers to get through. I actually played an Archaludon at the challenge I went to this weekend, and it got kind of scary at the end of our game. Like I blew up his first Archaludon, I was like, okay, I'm chilling, and then he just had Gust KO with like removing my tools from my Ogre Pawns each time with Vacuum or jamming tower, and I was like. All right, could be kind of iffy if I whiff here. I didn't whiff, thankfully, but could have gotten a little sketchy. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, yeah. It's very good at KOing those the support Pokemon, of course, the Dippities, the Luminions, the Ogre Pawns. Yeah, I think we
Um,
definitely see um the effects of
Look at this city league. Half of cut was
they
Ceruledge.
all lost in top 16. Every
They,
Sarah Ledge lost in top 16. Jeez,
holy
man.
cow! So many Ceruledge. It'll be interesting to see like all data compiled for like a weekend of city leagues or something like that. You know, like the
I feel
pie
like
charts. Oh, they tweet that right? Poke whatever it's called. Uh,
Pokebook.
yeah, they usually tweet something.
Yeah, I don't know if it's every week or something like that, but I've seen some pie charts be tweeted out before. um, but yeah, that'll definitely be one thing curious to see, just like how the big decks I think that I'm looking at that I'm like most curious about because they've been not very meta pre Prismatic Evolution is just like Archaludon and Ceruledge. But Ceruledge is definitely like I would say it's been more prevalent over in Japan in the Surging Sparks format than it was for anywhere outside of Japan. And I don't know why that is. Um I mean, but sometimes it does kind of maybe that sometimes the deck is better than it seems, and it does just kind of take some success from it for people to catch on and play it. I've never been overly impressed by the deck personally. It doesn't seem that good to me. But if there's I don't even know what there needs to be less of for it to be good though. What is it like? What does it need to be bad? Because it feels like you have a bad Guardy matchup. Um, I don't even know what the card is waiting for to all of a sudden become a better play.
Well, Archaludon.
Oh, Sarah Ledge.
Oh, Ceruledge.
Or Childon's waiting for Raging Bolt to go away.
Yeah.
Is probably its big one. But
Well,
yeah, Sarah Ledge, I don't know.
yeah, the guarding
Um,
matchup feels rough. I don't know. It's like it's just kind of a linear deck, right? Um
yes, yeah.
it you don't have really I mean it's pretty powerful, right? But you don't have like very many your plays that you can make is like can I radiant Greninja my opponent type deal.
Well, yeah, that's literally it, and that's why, like, it's almost like a tell when a deck is bad. I don't wanna say bad, like, when a card obviously is not powerful enough to exist in a kind of like in a vacuum or, like, in a meta, it adds Palkia Greninja. Like, a
Well,
Golden Go kind of had the
yeah.
same problem where it's like, Golden Go, it's like, it's fine, but it's not very good. It's like, I'm like, just maybe good enough if I have Palkia Greninja, and it's like, Sarah
Well,
just kinda taken that over.
part of it is just because of those 2 cards specifically are very energy based cards,
Yeah.
right? And they don't care what type of energy it is, right? And so
Mhm.
the combo of Palkia Greninja just kind of, like you said, like feeds into it is a powerful combo, right?
Yeah, and that is
Um,
true. Golden Go and Sarah Ledge, they attack with water, and they attack with metal, but they need a lot of energy, so they can definitely spare some of their energy pool to these other types for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it never hurts to have concealed cards in a deck. It's always pretty good to have the Radiant Greninja.
Yeah, and especially like this with Edge, where you're actively trying to discard energy cards, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what it's gonna take for Edge. I mean, it's like I don't know, this would feel pretty good into a meta that was like Raging Bolts, Golden Goes, Miraidons, Roaring Moons, like just a bunch of two prize Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
Because it deals with all of them a little bit better than they deal with it, right? But when you've got things like Gardevoir in the mix, and then with rotation happening, what's Gardevoir going to look like post rotation? How good will it be? Will it not be? Right?
Well, I mean, yeah, rotation is going to change a ton. We're going to get like a really powerful set in Journey together. Plus, we're going to lose a bunch of cards. Who knows
Yeah.
what things will look like then? Um, I'm curious how much of evolution we'll see from this format
Current
specifically because
format.
we have a decent amount of tournaments, right? Like, and I think a big one, of course, will be EUIC. That's where more people are going to pull out all more of the stops or anything they were kind of holding back, right? And then we'll still have like a month of the format after EUIC, which that'll be like the more interesting, the follow up of that, right?
Yeah.
Um, will be cool. Oh, speaking of tournaments coming up after EUIC, because I mentioned it last week, registration for Vancouver is actually tomorrow when y'all are listening. If you're listening to the podcast on release day, because I mentioned it last week, I was like, it's sometime. I saw him do a tweet. It's sometime coming up this week, I think, last week, but it's not. It wasn't last week. It's this week on
Are you
Wednesday.
registered?
I am registering. Yeah, Vancouver's
Are you
pretty
going?
easy. Yeah, I'm gonna go to Vancouver.
Okay. You were definitely going to go to San Antonio.
Yeah, until I was like, dude, I really
Defend
don't
your
want to play.
title.
Yeah, I was going to, and then I was like, I have to play Reggie Drago, and I was
Well,
like,
if like the week of the tournament, someone was like, or something that happens in Birmingham, and there's like some cool deck, and the meta changes up,
then I would
you could
consider
you could
going.
always
Yeah,
consider, right? Yeah.
yeah. Then I would maybe it was like, oh wait, that's like a really cool deck. I would play that at
Dude,
San
everyone would
Antonio.
go and let's say nothing really happens in Birmingham, and then all of a sudden, like 2 days before the tournament, you're like, "Oh, by the way, I decided to go to San Antonio." Everyone's gonna be like, "Oh my gosh, what does their testing group have?"
I would definitely only go if I was confident in something that wasn't Reggie Drago. That'd be the only thing that would move me to want to go. And I was excited to go to it as well before this format had kind of drug on for another month or so. And I was like, dude, this is just like I don't want to like I'm still having fun playing Pokemon, the Pokemon TCG right now. When I'm streaming, playing games, playing in online tournaments, switching up deck to deck. But yeah, playing in like a major tournament, knowing I'm just gonna play Reggie Drago, knowing like what the expected outcome of the tournament is in terms of like what's going to do well is not very intriguing anymore. It's definitely not feeling it. But I'm ready to Badoo some people. Hit 'em with the do.
I think that low key, I could see initially whenever Terrestrial Festival comes out, the Reggie Gigas, I think, is I mean, it's really only in Lugia, right? But I think it's like a card that can change the way people build this deck so much, and we saw that a little bit in the city
Yeah.
leagues or the Champions League, right?
And let me just say this real fast because I've been asked this way too many times. There's no reason to play Drapion in Lugia until Prismatic Evolution comes out. The reason to play Drapion is because you're going to play a thinner Chinchino line because you have Regigigas that kind of covers a lot of what Chinchino did way more efficiently. The only reason people are playing Drapion is to now answer Gardevoir EX because they're playing a thin Chinchino line. You should be playing a 2-2 Chinchino line if you're going to Birmingham or going to San Antonio. So Drapion shouldn't even be like a thought. Uh, like, yeah, I've been getting asked that question a lot about is Drapion worth considering Lugia for Birmingham or for San Antonio? It's like, no, it shouldn't even be. It's not. It's that's next format for a reason. There's a reason for next format to consider playing Drapion. We see this list. Well, I
They
don't know
were
about not playing Drapion.
they were like, "I'm just gonna lose to a Gardevoir EX."
Yeah, no
They're gonna
rats,
weird ear
no
it.
Drapion. Yeah, you can get one of them with that. That's so much energy that can't be. Yeah, this is definitely. I feel like they're missing the only one hands. They're
Well,
just losing a guard for, to be honest.
well, they've
This is
got the
the I'm gonna
Rosans.
lose
They've
the
got the
guard for.
Rosans.
This is the I'm gonna lose the guard for list. I
They
think.
can hands again.
No, I don't think so.
Well, they've got bundle too. Yeah, dude. They just hands for 4 and then weird ear.
Weird ear. Okay, lock it in. I'm down. You know what? You convinced me, Chip. Broken 60.
You can also, I mean,
I'm playing this for San Antonio. This is
the 60. Yeah, good luck playing this 60 for San Antonio with your
dude.
Regigigas.
That would actually. I'm not gonna lie. That would be a very interesting test. Like, if you just showed up to San Antonio with a Badoo in your deck and started playing the game, like, and it just started playing games, like, what would be how far
I
could you actually get? I would be curious. I'm just, like, curious to
How
know,
far could you get?
yeah, how many games, how many matches would you play before they're like, "You can't
All
have
right,
Badoo in your
here's a
deck?"
question. Here's a question. So I
Uh,
remember back oh man, what was his podcast called? It was a podcast that Kenny Wisdom and Serena Radu did for a while when I first started playing the game in like 2015, 2016. And I remember before Worlds, I think it was Worlds 2016, he asked her because Karen was not out yet, but Night March was still a massive deck in the format, right?
mhm.
He asked her if you could get a copy of Karen early and play it in your deck, and it would be legal and allowed to be played. No one could stop you from playing it. How much would you like pay for that card? How much value would that card be? And she was like, I mean, probably like close to whatever top eight would win. It would probably be
Yeah.
worth paying for. Uh, what do you think if you could pay to have a legal Badoo in your deck for San Antonio? What value would you place on Badoo for San Antonio if you could have it, but nobody else could necessarily?
I mean, how much you win for getting top 8?
5K?
Maybe, like, 2K. That you could just play Gardevoir with Badoo, I think. Maybe Dragapult, but I think Gardevoir I think I played Gardevoir with a Badoo would be the way to go.
It would be worth
Um
the Badoo would be worth 2K to you?
It'd be pretty powerful. Do you know how many people you would just they wouldn't expect your Badoo, and so they wouldn't play down any items on their first turn. Or no, maybe you'd play a deck that always wanted to go second to take advantage of Badoo. Like you'd play Cloth Terapagos with a Badoo or something, because that it can be pretty powerful in there. I don't know. But yeah, I mean probably like 2K, maybe more, maybe half of the top 8 prize payout. You have to think about like asymmetrical as well. Like you
Mhm.
might get stuck in asymmetrical and hit a bad matchup there still. So yeah, but
I'm just glad
hey.
I got you to engage in a what if. All right, now take a look at this deck, though. This is kinda cool.
Yeah, it's turbo it's like it's just turbo Charizard Dusknoir. It kind
Yeah.
of feels like the it reminds me of the Henry Brand deck from Worlds where
There's
Henry was playing.
Pokestops in this build, 3 Night Stretchers,
Yeah,
4 Trekking Shoes.
instead of Banette, you have Charizard. You
Yeah.
don't, but you have the option of item lock, turn one going second with the Badoo. So
Yes.
this honestly feels like that deck, but Charizard instead of Banette.
Instead of Banette, yeah. This is
Yeah,
cool. This is a deck that won the City League, this past weekend.
I didn't know this actually. Apparently, you can only go to one city league a season.
Really?
Yeah, and they're a lot more. I did know this. I think we mentioned this heading into the season.
Not you can
You
only win one, but you can only play in
Yeah,
one?
you can only play in one.
Like, for a season is in, like, a 3-month period of, like, when a
Yeah,
set is
like
out,
between
right?
Champions Leagues, basically,
Yeah,
I think.
okay.
And I mentioned this at the beginning. I like going into the season. I knew this, but that it means a lot more to win them because if you win a city league, you get to play the next Champions League. You get like an auto invite to the next Champions League. So it's a
Yeah.
pretty big deal to get your dub. So there's actually a lot on the line, and people are playing Pokestop Charizard.
And winning.
They're winning though. They got their invite. We'll
This
see
deck
them
seems
on
cool,
stream.
dude.
No, no, it definitely is. No, it definitely is. I'm just kind of joking around. Like I said, it looks very like if it looks like it probably plays pretty similar to that Henry Brand deck from Worlds, the Banette deck. You
Has the
just you just
Ursaluna.
yeah, turn two, pop a couple Dust Snores, and then you hit hard plus Iono, right? It's pretty cool. Time
Yeah,
catcher as
Charizard
well.
plus Dusknoir is just, like, an insanely powerful combo because, like, you just
The Dust Snore line
you can just
feels a
deal
little
with
thin.
everything.
Yeah, the Dust Snore line feels a little thin there, but see that's what I'm saying.
For
As
Q2?
as we're going through these, I've yet to see an evolution deck. I don't know if you've seen one.
No, I mean, I'm not clicking on every single tournament.
Yeah, I guess you wouldn't see any of them winning.
Oh, good old Pikachu EX Reggies, let's get it.
I played some of this deck recently. It's
Yeah?
actually it's bad, but it's, like, not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be so
Can you
there's
understand why Grant was convinced himself to play it for a tournament?
no. I thought so I like playing just Pokemon in general, and I like playing bad decks, but there's bad decks and then there's miserable decks where it's like you just can't win. Like it's not like you're sitting there and you're like every single game is you Iono your opponent to 1 and praying for like 4 turns so they don't top deck a very like
It's
an
like if you
easy
were
top deck.
you wouldn't be able to try to construct a Hatterini VMAX deck.
Yeah,
It
some
would
stuff
be
is just
miserable to
miserable.
play.
Yeah, it's just bad, it's just miserable, right? Um, but like something like the Pikachu deck, it's a bad deck, Pikachu Regis, but it's fun because you can win games, right? You can turn one donk, you can get off the turn one Greninja attack, which is sick.
Yeah.
Um, and you have like your Drago matchup is like pretty solid because like you're hitting them with Pikachu on turn one, and then they can't get through the ability unless they find their canceling claw and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a bad deck, but it's fun. Same thing like with I was even played Ancient Box the other day on stream. I think Ancient Box is still a bad deck. We'll see how it does with Prismatic Evolution, but I tried it out with the Brilliant Blender. The blender feels pretty good in there. It's a bad deck, but it's a fun deck, right? It's not miserable to play because you can beat most things with Ancient Box. Like most matchups are beatable. So um, some decks are miserable. There's a Regigigas in the peak. That could be a big deal for
For
Lost Box.
Lost Box.
Also, maybe the biggest thing for Lost Box, because I think one of the things people are speculating on, but not 100% sure of, is does Badu kill Reggie Drago? Because Reggie Drago definitely killed Lost Box. Um, but Lost Box honestly is good against pretty much everything that is not Reggie Drago. I've been saying that for a while. Like I was really hyped for Lost Box going into this format, but it turned out Reggie Drago was just so good still. It couldn't keep up.
Yeah, there's just
So,
like no Reggie Drago at any
yeah.
of these tournaments. It's so crazy. Looking at the meta share breakdown, like it's not even is it not even on here?
It's
Where is
not on there.
it? It's in the other category. Why?
Is Badu I mean, okay. One
Badu
thing you
cannot be
mentioned
that bad for this deck.
maybe. One thing you mentioned, though, was that it feels like look at, like, previous can you go to previous formats of these meta breakdowns?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to scroll way far back on this Twitter page.
Give it a little scroll, give it a little scroll.
All right.
Or you can go to just scroll to the top and then click on although every post might
Every
be a
post
media
is
post.
media.
Yeah. Oh, no, it
Uh,
just shows the pictures, though. Okay, that makes it way easier. Um,
This is Prismatic. And you can see here this was December 30th to January 1st, and there was no Drago then. Scroll down a little further.
what about last format? That's what I'm kinda curious about. Like,
Yeah.
was Reggie Drago showing up last format?
Whenever
Um
we know for a fact that it
It was
was
good. It was definitely good. There was no Badoo.
he see
Uh,
it's right here
yeah,
in
3%.
well this is in the
Oh, okay,
current
early
format
on.
still.
Okay, let's keep
It
going.
was early days of the format.
Yeah, I mean, one thing
Early
I think you
days.
mentioned it was just that it feels like maybe it's a deck that just doesn't seem like it's as popular in Japan. Um,
Just not as good in best of one. I don't
I don't
know.
think so. I don't know. The deck is still so good. I feel like best of one does not make that big of a difference
It
for this deck.
doesn't.
That
Playing
barely
I
is
had this
ever a
conversation with someone at the
factor.
league challenge this weekend about best of one decks versus like a best of three deck. And it's like every deck feels better in best of three, right? Because you get
Besides
it just
Gardevoir, but
eliminates
yeah,
your yeah. And that was like kind of the one thing. It's like guard like the stage two slower comeback decks, like generally are kind of indifferent between best of one, best of
yeah,
three, right?
yeah.
But pretty much every other deck,
Wasn't
Drago, all
yeah.
the turbo decks kind of just want
Yeah.
dude, they tweet so much. Holy cow.
That's, like, based on being able to play more Pokemon, and if you're and theoretically, if you're the better player, you wanna play more Pokemon, right?
Right.
And you always wanna assume you are the better player, so, it makes sense that best out of 3 should always feel better to play. Um,
I
but there
cannot
and
believe
but
I'm
technically, yeah,
sitting here scrolling
technically
through
every
this.
single Pokemon TCG archetype is either slightly better or is better in best out of 3 or is better in best of 1, but the difference is so small, it just does not matter. The only like the 2 decks that I can think of in the most recent formats is just Guardian Stall, and that's it. Okay, there we go, 18%
This was
insert
the
discard.
last format, yep.
Okay, is that the first that's the last one, the last format maybe?
Let's see. It's getting
Yeah.
there.
Okay, so yeah, it was up there. It was, like, number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it
That's
definitely wasn't, like, a thing where they weren't playing it in the previous format either. Um,
but
yeah,
then
like,
the
that's
first week and the new set comes out. It's nowhere to be seen.
yeah.
I
It
just
might
cannot comprehend how Badoo kills like hurts
I
that
mean,
bad.
if you just can't beat Dragapult or Guardfor because of the Badoo, I could see it, and they seem to be the 2 most popular decks, right? So
Why can't dude it just slows the game down by
Badoo!
one turn.
Yeah, but that's huge, especially for I would say that's huge for both decks, to be honest. You're just losing the price share at that point to both decks. I don't know, I
Well,
have to still play the format, but I feel like Drago is not as dead as the results from Japan suggest, for sure. The deck is too powerful for it to be this dead, and I don't think Power Glass is the solution. I think probably
I would rather play Cackney on my deck than Power Glass.
I think maybe just like choosing second is the solution, and you just set up like an extra energy and play it more often on average, and then you're just swinging on the next turn or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe playing something like the Elekid in Drago. Maybe that's where it belongs. Just so you're like you're drawing that prize card. Is like that big of a deal for you. I don't know. Yeah, maybe your Drago does just get stuck on the active too often or something like that. It's possible, but yeah, I don't think it's as dead as the City League, the most recent City League pie chart that we just looked at suggests.
Yeah.
You never know.
Okay.
Maybe it is. And I wouldn't actually be mad if it is. I'd be fine with that. Or do you
Well,
see
let's move
anything
on
else cool?
to no, I didn't
I
see
was
anything
saying.
else cool.
All right.
Let's move on to our last topic here this week to talk about, and that is something that we actually talked about last week on our 2025 wish list was the ability to report online. And this is a topic that actually came up over on Twitter this week. Rahul tweeted out a picture, quote tweet here of from Cash. Share the screen real quick. Tweeting about people being able to report their matches on their phones. This is a tournament that's happening in what is it, Malaysia, right?
I think so. Yeah.
And Rahul posted that this is something that needs to be adopted in the West. TPC is very large tournaments that flow well because they avoid match slip issues. Other large card games also use app based reporting, and the issues get limited and can be identified fast. And the interesting thing here is a reply from Dana, who, if we read Dana's bio here, is one of the co-founders and chief ops admins of Arcanine, someone who Azul and I both know. Uh, and she said, we can do this already. In fact, it was just used this past weekend for the Winter Online Professor Cup and has been used for other publishers' games, both online and in person.
That's
So
what I think. So, what uses Arcane? Does One Piece use Arcanine?
I think some One Piece and some Dragon Ball tournaments use Arcanine. Yeah.
So they must be. I would assume they're taking advantage of that if it's available to them. The question is just why is TPC? It has to come from TPCI then. Is the only reason that Pokemon's not doing it because I don't think. I mean, yeah, it just has to be TPCI saying no, not yet for whatever reason, which I can't
Yeah.
imagine why. And if you went to if you go to Rahul's tweet, there was some people bringing up some concerns with the idea of reporting pairings online. None of them are real, like they're not real concerns, but they're not actually like concerns. Like they do this in basically every other card game, or a lot of them. They've been doing this over in Japan and China consistently. The one that keep people bring up is, what if I don't have service? Well, judges should still be able to report matches, and there probably will be a place at the hive
I
to go report matches.
I don't
Um,
understand the service. Like, I mean, I mean, a lot of people say it, so people have this problem, but in the dozens of tournaments I've been to since 2022, I cannot once in all of the tournaments remember a time that I couldn't using just my regular network. Like, I'm not connected to Wi-Fi. They have
yeah, it
Wi-Fi
definitely is.
backstage, but I am never connected to it because generally it's slower than just using my network, using my phone.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those like I'm sure some people out there with some service providers do not have service, but it's definitely one of those like fake arguments where it's just like kind of like bringing up a counterpoint for the sake of bringing up a counterpoint. But there obviously would be other ways to report your matches, flagging down a judge, or they might have like a station up at the hive that you could go to. I'm sure there are literally actually some people without service, but yeah, there would be solutions for that, obviously. And the percentage is probably like less than 1%. Yeah, because I'm with you. I've never not had service in a venue. And if I don't, no, and the worst it is it's just really slow. But that's usually when everyone's trying to get on RK9 like at the same time. The round goes up and everyone's trying to get on RK9.
Yeah,
It's a
and
little bit
that's
slow at
less
the
a
beginning.
network issue and more like the server issue for wherever the website is hosted, right?
Yeah.
Like,
And
that's probably where more of the issue is.
the other uh ghost argument, it's like people out here boxing ghosts that people like to bring up is, well, what if your opponent just says they won? What if your opponent currently just says they win? What if you and your opponent both pick up your cards and you haven't signed the slip yet and your opponent goes and circles win if you won? Then it's going to become just like in this situation, a he said, she said situation, which can be remedied by simply reporting the game before you pick up your cards. All you have to do is not pick up your cards. All you have to do is potentially have people around you interject and be like, no, I saw this person win or I saw that person win, right? And that as a problem currently exists of just like, what if the other person just says they won? Like that is currently a problem if
Yeah,
it needs
someone
to
could
be.
do that.
Yeah, but it's like it's not actually a real problem. I'm sure it's happened before. I'm sure it will happen. I'm sure if we go to online reporting, it would happen, but it's not like an actual real problem. It's just like, yeah, technically that could happen,
Yeah.
but it's like
I
not
think
something that should stop us from ever even considering this. It's like not a real reason to
this
not consider
this is
online
probably
voting.
just true in life in general. But if you are too scared about the bumps in the road that come with
Well,
improving and
yeah.
making progress, you are just always going to be behind, right?
Yeah. Everyone, if you disagree, I don't know where you are at with your thought process, but everyone agrees this would be an improvement to be able to report our pairings on our phones. It would be an improvement, it'd be an upgrade. If we lived like theoretically in an ideal world where no one would like be malicious, there will be malicious actors, but even if that exists, it just doesn't
There's
matter. It's just
malicious
not a
actors now, yeah.
yeah, it's like not an argument against it. It's not a real argument against it. I think the only thing you could argue it would be like easy to like hack it, right? If anyone could easily hack the system and then like completely change their record really easily based on that being accessible. But it's all the whole standings and everything are done online anyway, so that would theoretically be possible right now.
Yeah.
So we know Arcanine can do it. We know they can do it with the was it Tom system that's in Arcanine. I wonder if like that means like One Piece and Dragon Ball. I doubt they use Tom though. They have to be using a
No.
different thing. So the question is, when is TPCI going to approve it to be turned on during Pokemon tournaments more so than anything at this point? Which it's got to happen eventually. But the question, I guess, what are they waiting for?
Well, they might not be waiting for much, right? Because Dana just hinted that it's been used for the Winter Online Professor Cup. So like it's
Okay.
been used for something Pokemon related, not super unrecently in wow, I don't know what word should go there. I just I just about lost it, man. All
Yeah.
right.
I mean, yeah. So maybe we'll see it for Birmingham and San Antonio. I had assumed they'd want to
Well,
test
I
it out
don't
first.
they probably would have announced it if it was gonna happen for one of those tournaments by now,
No, they don't
I
need
would
to announce. It's not that
think.
big of a deal. Is someone not going to go to San Antonio because you have online pairings? Actually, there might be someone who's got a big enough tinfoil hat who would like not go to a Pokemon tournament because you can report your pairings on RK9. I guess it is technically possible, but yeah, I don't think it's something that needs to be announced like super far ahead of time. And if I guess if they were going to test it out, they would probably start with an American event. It feels like that's generally how these things go. So maybe San
Oh,
Antonio will be the first
I get
tournament, or maybe EUIC. Maybe they'll do it
what
at the
one thing I
scene.
guess we could mention with the whole Wi-Fi and connection issue, to be fair, which we should be here, of course, one of the person who pointed this out is Jeremy Lim, who is from Australia, and so that is something to think about when it comes to these tournaments that are becoming more international, right? A lot of people are coming here and they don't have like the same carriers we have because they're
Yeah.
not from the US. So they're usually piggybacking on some other carrier from their carrier's like international plan, or they're using like
Mhm.
an eSIM or something like that. And so I definitely could see how in those instances they would have worse reception, right? I guess
Yeah, of
that's
course.
something worth realizing and pointing out.
Yeah, but if you look at like, I mean, I guess ICs will be a little bit different, but like I feel like one of the regionals where it feels like maybe the most, or it seems like the most amount of Europeans come over to America is Toronto, and there was like a total of like less than 50 players that weren't American or Canadian at Toronto. So like theoretically, 50 matches around, well, they'll have to call over a judge or go up to the hive to report their match. Sounds like a worthy trade off. Also, I think the biggest thing with this as well, and I think I've mentioned this before, is this theoretically frees up more staff to maybe make the tournaments bigger, to have enough staff for bigger tournaments because we don't have as many people printing pairings, cutting up pairings, going out and laying out pairings. I would assume that
Scanning
would
in
lead
match
to,
slips.
yeah, exactly. I would have to assume that this leads to a more efficiently ran tournament for the current amount of staff they're bringing to tournaments, which should lead to more staff being available to make a bigger tournament. So it just kind of all feeds into the progression of uh, the growth of the game. So yeah, I just question is not if, the question is when, and none of the arguments for why not are actual like real arguments. They're all like I don't know even I don't even know what to call them. They're fake. They're fake arguments.
Well, it was one of the things on our 2025 wish list, so hopefully
Yeah.
it comes early in 2025.
Cross off one of the hopes.
All right, Azul, you got anything else you want to say to the people before we get over to our weekly bonus episode?
No, no, had a uh yeah, good Good episode. Appreciate what you I had like another massive brain fart there.
Dude,
And well,
what is wrong with you?
that's all I got. Send us out, Chip.
Appreciate everyone for your support. Thanks for listening. And if you did enjoy, be sure to leave us a like, a comment, subscribe, all those good things. Go check out our newest video over on the Uncommon Energy channel if you haven't seen it yet. Azul and I did something a little bit more unique and different where he went to a local tournament and went to see how well he could do with a league battle deck. And the video's doing really well. It seems like a lot of people are really enjoying it. So appreciate anyone who is already watched it and they enjoyed it, left positive comments and all those things. But yeah, if you want to stay up to date with myself and Azul, see what else is happening in our lives, the best place to do it is over on X. You can follow myself at Chip Ritchie, Azul at Azul_GG. And you can follow the podcast at Uncommon_Energy.
Yeah, appreciate the support as always. Catch y'all next Wednesday, 7 a.m. Eastern. Um, yeah, peace.